what do I think about philosophy? Well, I love it and I hate it. Um, I love it because of what it's done for me personally. In college I studied philosophy, not solely, but extensively. And I appreciate it for giving structure to my brain, my feeble brain. It really taught me how to think. It didn't teach me what to think necessarily in every case, but it taught me how to go about the process of thinking. Um, I appreciate it also for what it's done for science and vice versa. Those two human endeavors go well together, and without each other, they would both be useless to the human condition. I think. Um, I also appreciate philosophy for what it does to me still on a day-to-day basis. Not at the conscious level necessarily. It just helps me to pause every once in a while and to really make an effort of applying my rational mind to some facts before me. It's um, not to always go with my gut, not to rely on my intuitions and the biases, but to actually stop a moment and pause, and to really apply some effortful thought every once in a while. That's a result of philosophy, actually, and more these days. It's actually even more so. It's becoming a result of human studies of psychology and heuristic processes, and how prone humans are to bad reasoning processes. But I do appreciate philosophy for that. Now, on the other hand, things I'm less appreciative for about philosophy. Well, one would have to be the realization that philosophers are products of their time and place. It's always good to remember that the people you're reading about, no matter how insightful they seem, they were still just doing the best they could and with the information they had at the time. Hopefully, if they're being honest about it. So it's just to realize that these aren't giants; these are just men doing their best work with the best information they have around them. I still appreciate certain philosophers more than others, under certain conditions. I just remember snippets that sort of stick with me because they just seem to resonate for some reason. You don't necessarily accept their whole philosophical school, whole cloth, but there's something, like reading Nietzsche. It's like his syphilitic brain popped out some really good one-liners every once in a while that sort of that just resonate well. But also the same is true about Kant or Berkeley or Hume, for me anyway. And that really sticks with me, as in Pierce and Popper and people like that. So I can appreciate philosophers for the things they say, even though I don't accept everything they say, I guess you would say. And therefore I don't read everything, just like you, Theo, and I'm sure everybody else. You just can't read every philosopher and believe every idea they're trying to sell you. It just doesn't all stick because we all are coming from a different place. That's probably, I imagine to this day, William Lane Craig and Daniel Dennett don't spend a lot of time reading each other's work because they don't. They're coming from extremely, almost diametrically opposed places, and they they're not going to find fertile ground with each other. Or another way of saying that would be don't cast pearls before swine. And that's that's a problem. The fact that philosophy isn't more like empirical science, where once you have some grounded facts, there's no grounded facts almost in philosophy. It's just something that has to be almost you have to buy into it. So even differing experimental physicists, even if they're disagreeing on a fact, on a theory, they'll still agree on basic facts, right? If assuming it's done good science done in an empirical fashion, there is a certain commonality there at least, and that's a problem with philosophy. Um, my other problems with philosophy actually have to do with certain types of philosophy, like rational schools of philosophy, Descartes and Aristotelian, Cartesian, Aristotelian philosophy. Um, it seems like, and this is pretty prevalent amongst the theistic, apologetics community. They really, really lean heavily on the rationalists to a scary extent, really. Um, and they talk about science as if we're still using Aristotelian models, which blows me away to this day. Can you have a more inaccurate view of how, science is conducted in this day and age and how we think about how things are classified? At the most fundamental level. Also, their sort of use of syllogism as if it's almost like Kabbalistic, It's like if they can just construct the perfect syllogism that just reflects truth, they can somehow summon God. You can then prove God through some perfectly constructed rational argument. That's not the way logic works. Logic is a symbolic representation of human understanding. It doesn't work the other way. You're not going to make God, exist. You don't prove God. But maybe you do. Maybe I just completely misunderstand the human condition and how humans interact with society. With the world and philosophy. And one final thing I really don't appreciate philosophy for is that it provides it obfuscates a lot. It really provides a lot of shielding for a lot of intellectual dishonesty, and people aren't willing to call people on their bullshit when they suddenly say they're a philosopher, because ostensibly a philosopher is someone who's there to express the truth with a capital T. That sort of assumes that truth with a capital T exists in the world, right? So when William Lane Craig is up there on the podium talking, he's ostensibly doing his best to express truth of the world, even when he is lying through his teeth or being intellectually deceitful. He's purposely misinterpreting and twisting another philosopher's words, or not even a philosopher, let's say, just twisting another person's words, period. Just to do that, to engage in such intellectual dishonesty is antithetical, I would hope, to the promise of philosophy itself. So that's what I worry about, is that other philosophers are just too fucking polite to call each other on their bullshit and just say, listen, I know we're having a debate or we're having a discussion in this forum, but what you're doing right now, this is not philosophy. You stop being a philosopher. I don't even know what you're doing right now. We're conducting a sideshow, apparently. So I worry about that, and that's really a turnoff to the endeavor of philosophy, I think, for a lot of people. Certainly for myself. So I guess all in all, it's good when it's doing good things, and it's bad when it's doing bad things. When it's promoting a genuine sort of abductive reasoning process, because I genuinely think that humans arrive at truth through abduction. They don't, induction is okay, deduction, they have their place, but humans naturally are abductive creatures, and philosophy definitely has its place in helping us sort of refine ourselves, refine our reasoning, so that we can arrive at better, more refined, less wrong states of being and believing and understanding. And that's my 2 cents. Thanks.